and today is an AI alert. So get ready for this information. You really need to know about this because AI is really, really infiltrating art in a big way. You'll see. And we have to stay ahead of it because it's poised to flood the art market and render artists virtually non-essential. But we know how this game is played. We know how to outsmart AI because, you know, AI doesn't have soul. I'll say here too that I think that it's been going around about this sentient AI that exists. And I honestly don't think that AI can be sentient because it can't have a soul. I mean, it can mimic things like compassion, stuff like that, but it just absolutely cannot be sentient. Since I last checked in on AI, because I do keep my eyes on it, it seems to have come absolutely leaps and bounds just a few years ago. I mean, I think I checked in 2019, 3 years ago, and we need to spread this information far and wide because we really need to stand up and claim our own artistry because AI generated art is advancing so fast. You know, you're going to have to like grab your easel to stabilize yourself because otherwise you're going to fall down. First, you know, in the early days, they presented us with a robot and all it had was like this mechanical claw that gripped a paintbrush like a toddler would hold a toothbrush. And they named her Ada, A-I-Da. And she was probably remote controlled or programmed in advance to make repetitive brush strokes because her images looked so patternesque. And you can go online and find pics of her drawing sketches of this British gallery owner that owned her and invented her. And his name was Aiden, A-I-D-E-N. And she's just literally a female steel and wire mannequin with a programmed wire arm. And I just had a good laugh at this. But I know I was laughing now because they were sort of introducing us to the idea. And it was just a sort of an introduction to get us used to what was to come. And the trouble they went to humanize this robot, surrounded by all her props and everything, like she just changed outfits and she had art props around her like she was studying the head and anatomy and things like that. It was just ludicrous. But today, that robot's oily descendants now have access to every image known to man. To mine algorithmically, no iron claw necessary and no fake body attached, yet still slick. So at first, when you look at it, this artistic tech, and I call it art twist tech, because it takes art and twists it all up, inside out, upside down, back to front, lots of thievery going on there. And it has all the panache of, say, the first Model T when it rolled off the line. And it struts all those same ramifications it will have on society writ large. There's a big gasp you give, you know, when you first see something amazing and you realize what it's going to do to society. So I'm asking today, how will the AI artists affect society and especially artists going forward? And like that first Model T that came off the line, I mean, it was amazing. And most people have cars in industrial countries. And it just makes that first shiny Ford not look that great. And I think this is what's going to happen to AI-generated art. You'll see in this video, you'll see how it looks. I think people will be able to like recognize it and go, oh, yeah, that's AI art. And also in the early days, they did portraits. They had these AI artists do portraits, and there was, the faces were so ugly, and they were almost, some of them were faceless. But today they can just take a photograph and enhance it and make you look absolutely stunning, like a master of art painted your face. So there goes portraiture out the window. And then another thing I wanted to add to this, because I'd be remiss not to actually mention it, but have you heard of these things called NFTs, non-fungible items? Well, we've recently seen a surge of interest in this blockchain digital art, which is made by humans, and it getting sold for tons of money. And like I said, they're regarded as digital non-fungible items. But technically, it isn't even the image that is sold. It's just a unit of data on the blockchain that says you own the image. So here, I'm not referring to this human-generated computer art as AI art. I just want you to know that it's human computer-generated art, but it's merely a digital sidebar in the devolution of art that we're experiencing right now, where the computer itself becomes a firewall to connecting to source. So then obviously the image you're getting is creating a part human, part machine nuance. But, I've seen really compelling computer-generated art that incorporates sacred geometry in a really stunning way that is really beautiful. So my beef is not really with computer art created with art applications such as like Photoshop, because a lot of human creativity and skill is required to produce this art. So going back to that first little Ford that rolled off the assembly line, when they were first produced, we were so amazed to be moving quickly over the ground with our very own horsepower that never got tired. And the same thing with chalkboards and computers. What horse-drawn carriages were to cars back in the day, chalkboards are to computers. And then we're going to look ahead, we're going to see that there's anti-gravity tech being used today without our knowledge, of course. It's all kept secret. But, if you do a search or anything for it, you'll see the results and your mind will be blown at what really is available. So they're always sort of inching us into the new things that they want to put forward. But meantime, they have amazing stuff down the line that we're never privy to, especially in like secret space programs and things like that. And they're always introducing new old tech that they've had, they've had it since probably the days of Babylon. So as awed as we may be by AI artists and their endless proliferation of on-demand visual images, they do music videos, anything else creative that humans make that they can get their little simulative claws on, AI art is going to be a very short-lived artistic romance. So having said that, it's still a big threat. It'll take a while for people to get over it. And I hear it's really addictive too, because you can buy a program online and make all kinds of art with it using this AI. I think that AI generated art is a plastic, soulless industry of mass thievery, of megatons of bytes, stolen from the imagination of all the artists that were ever internet documented in articles posted online, sourced from archives, and basically since paint and pigments were invented. So first humans began to assemble images from the internet. Then the AI followed. And remember when they said that computers would save trees because humans wouldn't need to use as much paper, and then we ended up wasting a hell of a lot more paper by printing everything we created on our computers. So now that anyone with access to this AI program can order up an original art twist tech generated image online from a program, one of them that I know of is called Midjourney. And will we need less human artists? Are we phasing out human artists now? And like I said earlier, portrait artists. because now you can order instant painterly looking portraits online in a flash. So the very latest AI tech generated images are now produced from text prompts made by humans. And it almost seems like art to go from a takeout store, like a drive-through art McDonald's. And it's instant gratification art, no more waiting months while an artist conceptualizes and then physically has to paint a commissioned piece. So there goes my livelihood. How about yours? These AI go deep diving on command across the vast plains of the internet to harvest images for their job descriptions and algorithmically produce a semi-original collage. And the style is generated by request. Just put in Van Gogh, see what comes up. I made up some command examples. If I was asked to give AI a job, these are the following texts that I would enter into the program. Sirat style party, but in 1980. So there'd be pointillism, that the AI would go in and find pointillism. And then the AI would go to the trends of the 80s and then would marry the two. So you get an idea of how this text command thing works. You'll be able to recognize them as AI, I'm sure, after you've seen a few. So although these images are mined quickly and they are somewhat impressive, they emanate an overall artificial manufactured look, rather like artificial intelligence itself, soulless. And they can only mimic soulfulness by taking the essence of, say, an Edvard Munch, his famous Scream, everybody knows that painting, and infuse it into their soulless algorithmic masterpiece. And I call it a masterpiece in that it has a master to tell it what to make, and it's made of pieces stolen from the internet. But you can have your AI and eat it. But I believe it will never have a soul. And so that will always show through in art. And some people do believe that sentience is possible with AI, like I said, but I do not. Because inspiration cannot come from mechanical means. It can only come from creator source. And it can only work from instruction manuals from a third dimensional matrix, which is trying desperately to play God. And I've also heard that evil itself cannot create. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. And evil can only mimic and copy. So I'm not really saying that AI itself is evil, no, but just that people with nefarious intentions can use it for evil. You know, just like use a hammer to build a house or knock it down. And there's a whole lot of pornographic art, like the Podesta art collection, that sadly exists now. And the AI could source it. So by the very fact that one has a soul and one is pre-designated by divine right as family of the creation model, that's you and me, human beings, courtesy of the multiverse by design, I don't believe that AI can ever have a soul, as AI is a deformer rather than a performer. It has no rhythm of its own. It only has algorithms, and algorithms are what? Mathematical instructions rather than divine intentions with which we are blessed. And AI also resides within the phantom matrix rather than the spirit matrix, where our souls blossom in spirituality. So when humans create, the unknown outcome produces motivation and excitement and intensifies the senses. But the act of AI being instructed to perform using algorithms via these text commands produces a known outcome within the parameters of the designated task. So after the results of the initial output, the outcome is known, and therefore elicits malaise, boredom, as there are no senses being intensified, only mechanical sensors that gather and separate parts. So rather than the vision, it actually has fission, because it steals from composed elements in art and decomposes these elements to generate a semi-original collage by way of theft. So it's reaching into the very Akashic records of the available art imagery of all time. And this is humanity's art consciousness bank. And it's being robbed in broad daylight, if you ask me. That's my take on it. And AI is wearing that mined and harvested treasures, like it's its very own technicolored coat. And AI computers are imposter artists and are harvesting the property of us. And what if we have any copyrights over this work? What if we hold copy? They don't care. They just go grab images and styles from all through history. Grab. So are we supposed to just stand there and say, wow, like we did when that first motor car rolled off the assembly line? If you ask me, these are the invisible robber barons 2.0, and they've arrived. And the bottom line is, if you are unable to paint from your imagination in this day and age of AI artistry, you might be rendered redundant as an artist, because AI can now simulate any style of art, from classic still life renditions to any of the think tank generated genres, from cubism to expressionism. So what's next? Are we getting to the point where AI can time travel now and go take a piss in Duchamp's urinal? Sure hope not. But who knows, with the tech they have, it might even be a reality. I doubt it. The hidden gift to us, though, now that we know this, is that it does require us to finally wake up and see art for its true purpose. And it requires us to break out of this art box that was created, that has heretofore stunted the extent of our true creativity. We can now redefine art for the purpose it was originally intended, which I believe is a vehicle for positive human evolution. I also believe that creativity is the sixth sense, in that it embodies the other five senses. Taste, in this case, would be one's preferred aesthetic. And when we're painting, we're seeing and touching as we create. Like when I imagine an ocean that I'm painting, I undulate with it as I'm painting. I can feel the ocean, the water moving. And when I paint an orange, I almost feel like I can, in my imagination, I pierce its skin, and then that spray comes out. I can smell it. I can imagine the texture. And then while I'm painting, I'm sort of infusing those energies into this orange as I'm painting it. And then when you look at expressionism in any form, it does evoke a myriad of senses beyond even just the five senses, the sixth sense, because you're bringing in all these emotions. So we have to realize that the prevailing disinterest in art today is by design, because it's sneakily being stolen by AI. Unfortunately, art is seen either as an unaffordable luxury or a waste of time, especially to people who are just too busy trying to make ends meet and see art as only viable if it earns money through commercial endeavors. So art, like history, science, all these other disciplines of academia, has been manipulated for the benefit of those who seek control over humanity, in order that art's inherent relationship to the universal creation model might never be realized. They don't want us to make that connection, that creating connects us to the multiverse's creator model in some way when we create. That's the last thing they want us to know. Our organic selves, creating from soul through our hearts with our hands, denying the synthetic a grandiose place in our evolution is the path to enlightenment, because anything synthetic can't ascend due to its very fabrication and attempt at playing God with superficially manufactured elements that lack the sacred blueprints, are unable to break the barrier of the divine for entrance beyond anything higher than 3D. So once you see and know this, you can't unsee it. The importance of the true function of art and creativity will finally be moved to the front burner in education and culture, where it belongs. It's been on that back burner for too long. Regurgitating classic originals into pop art would have Da Vinci turning in his grave, I'm sure, which is what AI is doing. Goes and gets the Mona Lisa, slaps it down, throws on some other stuff with some other style from some other artist, and you've got a Mona Lisa that looks like a freakazoid from planet Ula. So sadly, AI nanotech infiltrators have also found a way into our very bloodstreams by way of medication. And we know these are man-made methods of surveillance through the human biome. And I've written about this prosthetic idea, polymers and nanotech, previously in my blog. I'd be remiss not to mention this here again, because these graphene oxide infusions into the bloodstream pose an even greater danger than the AI artists do to humanity's creativity. This is just a little addendum on the side so that you know and you can go and do your research. But in a nutshell, they're using remote control devices to infiltrate the mind and implant exterior thoughts that the human receiving the thoughts then mistakes as their own thought. So how does this affect the imaginations of artists going forward? Renders them no longer in touch with the guidance of their own divine soul. But more than that, as these synthetic elements are introduced into the bloodstream, they slowly break down the very soul plasma itself. Without the soul of the human is rendered unable to source even their God-given creativity. And that's when they become robotic and zombie-like. But that's another whole story. Like, I've heard of people that have their bloodstreams have been infiltrated with certain metallics, and it's had an effect on them to the point where their dog didn't recognize them. Just think about that. So anyway, if you're a practicing artist, remember, we're all born creative geniuses. 98% of us are. Or maybe your art frozen. I have another video about that you can go back and look at. It's easily fixed. And it's just my deepest hope now that AI art will not survive or supersede the real hands-on, heartfelt art of human beings. So let's hope AI art is just a passing fad. Let's do everything we can to support real art in our communities and learn to teach art to our younger ones. All of these actions will help. And of course, I have my book, Splat, that teaches how to learn to teach art here. You don't have to be an artist, but you can still teach it. It's very important that we do go and share our knowledge and our information with them. Otherwise, this AI is going to take over. And then what will humanity look like? And especially where it's, I don't mind AI crunching numbers and doing all that horrible work that's so boring. But when AI starts to walk into my territory, snatch my paintbrush out of my hand and say, you are now redundant, then I will not accept that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll maybe look at my other videos. And I thank you very much for spending the time here today to find out about AI and the alert. All right. I would love it if you would subscribe, like, and share it around if you found the information interesting enough. Thanks a lot. Okay, bye-bye. So I am a Living Arts faculty member at the New Earth University. So I hope you're going to have a look at that too. It's a platform for planetary stewardship and unification, and it's a great place for me to express all my feelings about art, because there's no other university, like Academia is not going to embrace what I have to say about art, because I believe that art and creativity are vital to humanity's positive evolution, and this is being kept a secret from us. So I have about a 2-hour presentation on there that goes through all the history and everything else of art and how they've kept this secret from us, and what they did to art. They put it in a box, wrapped it up tight, and they never let us know what it was really for. So you can go and see that at New Earth University online, which is connected to New Earth Horizon. So thank you very much indeed if you do go and have a look, and you'll find many, many interesting aspects of art that you probably won't hear about anywhere else. Okay.